Welcome to Desert Wanderers, produced by Salt and Light Radio. If you're new here, we bridge the gap between you and the person in the pew next to you. I will be interviewing priests, religious, and laity in our local Boise diocese, asking questions that'll help you navigate your vocation and help build community wherever you are with whatever resources you may have. Let's build the city of God together. Hello, Brother John Paul. I'm so excited to have you in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So I think a great place to start would just be the big question, which is, you're a brother with Verbum Spei. So yes. How did you discern to become a brother?
Would you like the long answer or the short answer?
Definitely the long answer.
Okay. So I'm a cradle Catholic by birth. I have a Kiwi father, and my mother's actually Filipino.
Oh, okay.
I don't look like it. I say my mother's Filipino. I'm not Filipino. So I grew up with a household with two different flavors of Catholicism, if you know what I mean. The more Kiwi, more, how do you say, the regular New Zealand Catholic household, and then it was spiced up with the Filipino side. Absolutely. Of course, family rosaries were always obligatory every night, even if it's super late in the piece, and everyone's falling asleep, me and my siblings. Of course, Sunday Mass, and then maybe another Mass during the week.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother.
Okay.
We're all grown up now, all have left the nest.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's great to have a family that supports me in my vocation, for sure. I know of stories of other brothers or priests that don't have that support, and it's a bit of a battle, but I'm so super lucky to have that support from my family. So definitely I breathed Catholicism growing up. There was, reading the scriptures, trying to love Jesus.
What was your, so you said you prayed rosaries and went to Mass and obviously read scripture, but what did your childhood look like in terms of, just in general, but also in terms of more religious ideas?
I really admire my dad in the sense that he really took, his role as first educator very seriously in the faith. So it wasn't off to Catholic school and that'll be it. No, he really took it in his stride to say, okay, there might be a few problems in the system, but hey, I'll make up for what's lacking. For example, Sunday evenings was his classic line, "Let's talk about Jesus," and we'd look at the gospel that was on Sunday. We're all in bed, but we'd speak about that. And reflecting now, I realized that we had a Lectio Divina every Sunday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's very beautiful to think, actually. So definitely, I'm very lucky to have my parents, like that. And also the Filipino side, there was a Filipino community in my hometown, and my mum was in a Filipino choir, and there were the traditions. My sisters would dance with the traditional Filipino dances. Me, not so much. But there was the Sinulog, Simbang Gabi, and all those more Filipino traditions. So I grew up with that almost being normal for me.
Yeah.
So I guess the question of a vocation has always been there, and I just sort of kept it to myself.
Did your parents, did they ever suggest, or were they fairly openly, were they talking openly about maybe becoming a priest, or was religious life in New Zealand very prevalent where you were at?
Where I was, not very prevalent.
Were they always okay, because you have 2 older sisters and then a younger brother. Mm-hmm. So were they expecting you to have children? Or were your sisters kind of taking some of that load?
Well, it does help when you become a brother that you have another brother that could take the family name.
Yeah.
Again, my parents were very respectful in that sense. they just knew that if they did their role as best they could, if there was vocations coming out of the family, praise be to God, and if not, that's okay as well. I did have one sister who discerned with a group of sisters. It didn't happen. That's okay. She came back home, and now she's married with her kids and family. And
do you think that was an influence on you? Like, did that open you up to the religious world?
I'm just thinking now. I think I think I was first, actually, and I was influencing my sister in a whatever way you want to say, in a positive way. So definitely, also altar serving was a big part of growing up. That you actually have that time to talk with the priest. He's not just the man up on the altar, but if you go back into the sacristy, he's interested in your studies, with my rugby game of yesterday, and again, just it's only a small time that you get to see the priest, but again, after every Sunday, it accumulates, and then you think, oh, these guys are all right. Yeah. Still a little old. And then what was the game changer was I went to a Catholic summer camp for young adults when I was 18. It's called Hearts Aflame in New Zealand, and that's where I met a seminarian for the first time. Oh, okay. And I was like, wow, okay, this is... Okay, he's in his 20s. He's actually two of them, and it was such an eye-opener for me to see. Also, just that whole place, the whole summer camp. It was 10 days of formation and fellowship and games and fun and prayer, of course. I got introduced to the Divine Office, and I loved it. It was just... you're just there, and you get to spend some more time with seminarians and priests and religious. And in a sense, that was the beginning of the end. I was hooked. Yeah.
I think ICYC, have you helped out with ICYC at all here?
I have been,
Idaho
yes.
Catholic Youth Convention. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that was that for me. And there's something about seeing other young people like also participating in your faith.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, we had a really small youth group. I think there was like 10 of us for all of like the high school grades. Right. Because I grew up in a small town in Idaho, Payette. Well, it was small at the time. It's growing now. Sure. But okay. Yeah, so when I went, there was probably like 3,000 youth. 2,000, 3,000. It was like, we were completely packed. At this time, it was at Bishop Kelly. So maybe it wasn't 3,000. I don't think you could fit that many people in there. I remember it was over 1,000. I'm prone to exaggeration, but I know it was over 1,000 people because I remember being like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen this many people in one space, that wasn't like a football game, or like a basketball game, like a BSU. And I just remember thinking, wow, there's a lot of people here, and they're all Catholic. And I think it opened my eyes like, oh, our faith isn't just this like tiny 10%, there's 10 kids for the high school group to take over the church after it dies out. I think that was an eye opener. Yeah. Just seeing the youth in it.
For sure. Also with my context, the youth group, for some reason, when I was that teen, it wasn't really existing, unfortunately. So there was a bit of lack there, in terms of, okay, I don't have a young community as a teen growing up that are Catholic. So definitely, for sure, to have that whole nationwide. It's only New Zealand. I know it's a small country, so even then there was 100 people for 10 days.
That's still
It was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Is New Zealand fairly Catholic, or what is the like religious scene there?
Not super Catholic, no. Nominatively Catholic, as in on the census, it's 10%.
Oh, really?
But if you take that 10%, is 10% go to Mass on Sunday. Yeah. So if you think numbers wise,
wow, that's so small.
For a nation of 4.5 million, it is very small. If you take 10% of America, I mean, it's still a large population. So
yeah, but I think Catholics make more than 10% of the U.S.
Oh yeah,
I'm not. I think.
Okay. Yep.
But again, when we're talking about Christianity in the U.S., I think it's still smaller than what they would call like the spiritual. Like I'm spiritual.
Oh, really?
You know, like I kind of agnostic. Like I believe in God, but you know, as long as I'm a good person, I'm okay. You know, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it's, I'm almost 100% positive it's more than 10%.
I need to do some fact checking as well, but that's at least what I saw in the last census in New Zealand. And,
yeah,
it's
So is it just secular, or is there other religions that are
a lot of nuns, as in the nothings.
Oh,
the nuns. I don't know. Do you say that in America?
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. So definitely, I think the majority of New Zealand are the.
Which is so interesting because as a nun, are you like agnostic, or are you atheist, or you're just like, I'm not anything. I don't.
Yeah, maybe just.
I'm not. Yeah, and I don't. That's such a. Yeah, I know that's growing in the U.S. too.
Okay.
I think it's probably surpassing this, like the spirituals. You know, like I'm spiritual.
Okay.
You know, I don't know, because it's interesting because there's a lot of people that practice like a type of meditation that I would consider more of like a Buddhist, like religion. Maybe that's just popular on social media, you know. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the people I've worked with, I think they would call themselves spiritual.
Okay.
And they would talk about meditating, but it's definitely more like maybe Buddhist or even Hindu. When I was talking to Father Dom, he was talking about how they're really contemplative. But it's all about like discovering the I, right? Okay. Versus contemplative discern of discovering the friend.
Okay.
Right? So I think that the people I've worked with, like here in Boise, I can't talk for everybody, but the people I've worked with here in Boise, or I've done a little bit of contracting work, they all kind of have that idea. It's like, no, I need to discover myself, and I'm going to go into this meditation, and I'm going to like be really contemplative. Like I had a coworker that I worked with that went on like a 4-day silent retreat. Really? But it was with no intention of understanding God.
Just for understanding yourself.
Yeah. So I think there's like this like movement of, and I kind of think that, and I think it goes with therapy a little bit, but not in a bad way. I'm not saying that therapy is bad. I would love to, I think hopefully we'll get a Catholic therapist on here sometime, but because I think that there is some healing and that you can really work with yourself in overcoming trauma and, you know, maybe some bad habits that you have for yourself. But yeah, but
I definitely understand why we're a busy world and everybody's it's go and 4 days of silence, even if you're not necessarily religious. I mean, heck I'd recommend that to everyone, really.
I know. Now that I have children, there's part of me that's like, oh, I feel so much more relaxed and at peace because I don't work.
Okay, yep.
But I take care of my kids. But the silence part, you're like, man, like, can I get an hour? Just like an hour? Yeah.
Okay, yep.
But at the same time, so like her silent retreat, they couldn't have phones. Like you check in your phone.
Great.
So it was all like journaling. You couldn't talk to other people at the camp except for the last like day that you were at the camp. You could talk to other people.
Could you bring a book?
No.
Not even.
You could bring a journal. No journals. She was like, she was scratching her note. Like she had a couple of thoughts and she was scratching her notes into, I can't remember if it was like a piece of paper or like a piece of wood. She's like, I can't forget these things. But yeah, it was completely nothing.
Very cool.
Yeah. I actually was really jealous when I heard about it.
Sure.
Granted. But again, the difference would be, so let me go back to the therapy thing. Is like, sometimes I think that you compare those two things about discovering yourself and make that into its own like spiritual. Like that's what I think a lot of people would call, like, I'm spiritual. Like I'm still discovering. So that's why I think it might be more of maybe a Hindu or.
I mean, it might be more orientated that way, but I'm not sure necessarily Hindu.
No.
Or Buddhist,
no, like in terms of, I guess how I should say it is how I've been described what the culture might be like.
Okay.
Which is like the contemplative that is trying to discover themselves.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to offend any. I just don't know. Just call me ignorant.
There you go.
So you went to this youth group or this youth week retreat.
Yes, yep.
Yeah. And so when you came, you said it's the beginning of the end. So what does that mean?
Beginning of the end. After that, I went to
hold on. I'm so sorry. I have one more question. So were you thinking about becoming a priest because of the seminarians, or were there any religious at the camp as well?
So I actually went to the diocesan seminary for a year, actually. Not straight after this camp, maybe 2 years after.
How old were you when you went to the camp?
18.
Okay.
I went to the diocesan seminary. I was 21. I was the youngest seminarian. It was great. I was the baby. I was looked after. But yeah, it was it just sort of happened, and then I was like, okay, diocesans. I grew up around diocesan priests. That's okay. Let's try the diocesan seminary. Yeah. And I was there for a year and moved out of home and received the formation. And after, I was like, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
That's a very Kiwi saying, actually, yeah, nah. As in, yeah, but nah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the same. I
okay,
said
yeah,
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah, but.
Yeah. So when you were working, or when you were an altar server, was that part of the reason why you went into the diocesan? Like, did you have good relationships with the priests at your diocese?
Sure, yeah.
Did you ever talk to them about joining the priesthood, or did they ever?
For sure. I just mentioned it, not being all too serious about it, but
yeah.
And then at one point, I clearly remember the night. I already texted the priest. I'm like, hey, Father, can I talk to you about this? And then I was leaving home, and my parents were on the couch, just a regular evening. And I said, oh, I'm going out now. And they said, oh, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going to see Father John. And I didn't realize that. So they were my parents, and my sister was like on the other side of them. I couldn't see it. And she turns out from around the corner, you want to be a priest? And then I said to her, and then Mum and Dad were sort of smiling, and I said, yes, actually. Dead silence. I walked out.
No.
Yeah. Clearly remember that night.
Wow.
And
wait, your parents didn't even say anything?
I think Dad had a good smile on his face, and probably Mum had a tear in her eye, but I just sort of left before I saw any reaction.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing about having kids for me is like, yeah, you're gonna have to be okay with them like growing up and moving out. And
sure, yep.
Being whatever they are called to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard. Regardless of like whatever your vocation would be.
Oh yeah.
I think it's for women. I think it's for mothers. I think it's harder with boys than it is with girls, because
really?
I think boys will, if they get married, they usually will follow their fiance or like their fiance or wife. Or is that just my scenario? I don't know. I think that my brothers, they're close, but they've followed what their wives have needed.
Okay.
So like one of them was, one of my sister-in-laws is a doctor. And so she went to Utah to do residency. Mm-hmm. And of course, you're going to go with your wife, right?
Sure, yep.
Yeah. But I think women and the girls, they typically will stay closer to home. Or
yes, that is the case actually with my family.
Yeah.
My younger brother's in London at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm here, and then my two sisters are back in New Zealand. So
I think there's like an adventurous spirit with men.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that it should be squelched, but I think that's the hard part about, I think, being a mother is knowing that my son's going to leave one day.
Yeah. Well, also, to be fair, both my sisters have their families now, so they're sort of settled down in New Zealand. So
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Another tangent.
No, that's fine.
So
great.
What was your like spiritual journey through the diocesan? Like, how did you discern in and how did you discern out of the diocesan seminary?
Discerning in, I was thinking, I guess the diocesans have first dibs. I mean, that's where I
Did you not want to have did you not want to get married and have kids?
I mean, how do you say? So it's a great natural desire. It's,
right.
For sure. I see my nieces and nephews. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I see the vocation of my sisters and my brothers-in-law, and it's an amazing vocation they have.
Yeah.
So definitely it wasn't like a pros and cons list.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I mean, I love Christ and Christ took my heart. So,
I'm going to follow him.
Let's just follow. Yeah. No worries. Super simple.
Yeah. So then, okay. So then how did you discern, or like, what were the points where you're like, well, maybe I don't feel called to being a priest at, a diocesan priest?
I guess I just saw that I wasn't doing too well in the seminary. I didn't really think about it all too much. As in, reflecting back now, I sort of thought that was a good year. It just didn't work out. It just wasn't sticking, if you know what I mean. I don't know how to say it. It was great, but
it didn't capture you then.
No. Yeah. Definitely not. I was sort of limping along. I was like, okay, have to do my studies, and this is seminarians, but maybe this dissatisfaction is a sign that maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah.
So again, I enjoyed my time. I made some great friendships, and but at the end of the day, it's for forming priests, diocesan priests, to getting to the end and getting ordained, and it just didn't happen. Yeah. And
totally.
Again, I enjoyed myself, but I could sense the Lord calling me elsewhere, so I finished the year off. I said, okay, let's really do this year well. The preparatoric year was towards the end of the year, and I said, let's sort of stick it out for the year, because it's great to do. And that was the formative said, you can stay around, and it was great.
So then what did you do after that? Did you go into the workforce for a little bit, or did you, what happened next?
At this stage, I already met Father Dominique, my superior in the community.
Oh wait, how did you meet Father Dom?
So that was, so after high school, I went to something called the School of Life, the Catholic Discipleship College. So that was a direct consequence of going to this Hearts Aflame summer camp.
Well, as I hear, that's like the place to become a religious. You go there to become a religious.
Or to find your spouse. I heard it called Hearts Aflutter.
Really?
So definitely people find their vocations in all senses.
Yeah. Okay.
So I heard about this discipleship college. I said, heck, let's go. I had no other plans. I didn't know what I was doing out of high school.
Yeah.
And I met Father Dominique for the first time. And I clearly remember, someone was saying, oh yeah, this is Father Dominique. He will give some formation. And I looked at him. I'm like, oh man, he's probably born in the 70s. He's got that. He's a 70s guy. Like, come on. Hopefully he doesn't stay around long. And then he gave I clearly remember the first little talk. It was on adoration.
Yeah.
I still had my reserves on this guy. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I heard the talk, and then there was a few questions afterwards. I asked a few questions just to see if he's really like, okay.
Are you legit?
Yeah.
Are you legit? Yeah. Let's see here.
Absolutely. So I try to pull out some of the tricks and see where he's at. And then he totally answered them super well. I'm like, okay, this guy's good. This guy. It was. I was like, yeah, I can. I mean, he's a priest, he's Catholic, of course, but it's like, yeah, I can really trust this guy. I can really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
there's something palpable about truth.
Sure, for sure. It just captured me. This how he was speaking. Again, it wasn't about the way he was speaking. He's got his French accent. He's not like a big speaker with gestures and all these stories, or he just speaks in his way, and I got the truth from it, and I had a blast that year.
How many people were at the discipleship college?
So there was 6 of us. There was myself and another guy, and then there was 4 girls.
Okay.
So we live in community as well. Daily mass, adoration, morning and evening prayer.
Yeah.
And
okay, total side note. what's your favorite liturgy of the hours? Like, which one?
I would say it changes. Depending on the season. Yeah. I like midday prayer, not because it's the shortest.
Just putting the preface out there, okay?
There you go. It was just I love looking at the Psalm 118.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a long psalm, or 62 verses or whatever, but it's all divided up, and it's on like following the Lord's ways and wisdom, and it's just.
It's also good, like a good midday, like prayer.
For
like
sure.
Refocus yourself to Christ in the middle of the day.
Absolutely, yeah. And also the Psalm 129 at the end. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. It's always a great wee moment. Even though we say it every day, I thoroughly enjoy that psalm.
I think I've said this before, but my favorite part when I was going to metaphysics would be listening to all the brothers sing the Salve at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could listen to that every day. I could.
Yeah. So definitely, that's what we love as brothers, to sing the Psalms. Again, at this diocesan seminary or at this school of life here, we just read the Psalms.
Yeah,
it's great. But I know I love the fact of singing them. Sort of.
Well, they're meant to be sung.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So when you're at the school of life, well, hold on. Before we get back to that, I want to say, like, through Scripture, what is something that's been really helpful? Like, do you think that the Psalms were really influential in your life, or did they really speak to you? Or is it more like, do you get more out of the Gospels, or? Yeah.
I do really like the Psalms. For sure, they've grown on me. Over the years of religious life. One of our fathers, Father John Christopher, he gave a session on the Psalms, which really sparked this love for the Psalms. And he was saying, I think maybe, I don't want to, I'll need to fact check this again, but he said maybe St. Thomas or someone said it's like a fifth gospel.
Yeah.
Like, it's the life of Jesus in the Psalms there. The Psalm 21, it's on the suffering servant. Yeah. It's not Isaiah, but it's like a suffering servant in the Psalms. Amazing psalm.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful because I think in the Psalms it's very human.
For sure.
Like the human experience, or what often I can feel as a lady, like as a lay person. Mm-hmm. The Psalms are something you can really grasp because you go through trials and you have triumphs. And,
for sure.
He was, if you're talking about David, he was a king and he had to deal with like just daily stuff. Sure. I mean, he was running a kingdom, but, it was very, very much like he created a way for us to connect, I think, in a way that is extremely human.
For sure.
Yeah.
Even one of the lines that I like is, Lord, hear the words of my mouth. Yeah. As in prayer is actually you're actually speaking, as not just close your mouth and meditate and close your eyes, but where else do words come from? It comes from your mouth. Yeah. So I don't know, just these random little things that he actually cried out to God like that. Yeah. He wasn't just in his head had this interior cry. It was literally him speaking out to God. Yeah. So every now and again you get David coming through the Psalms. Which I thoroughly enjoy.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that that's my goal, is to get better at reading Scripture.
Sure.
In general. I always create excuses. My excuse has been thus far that I'm dyslexic and so I don't like to read, which is true. I don't like to read. Okay. But I'm reading through Matthew right now, and I read the Beatitudes.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And I feel like they spoke to me for the first time, where I was just like, wow, like I gotta unpack this.
For sure, yeah.
Or even the part after where he talks about like how the rich will be like the first comes last and the last will come first, right? I'm summing up a paragraph basically.
Sure.
after the Beatitudes. But it kind of really hit me to be, I don't know, this time it was really very, very profound.
Sure, yeah.
Reading through it. And yeah, I can see as a person that hasn't like sat down and read, there's something different than listening to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like hearing it preached about, or hearing and then actually reading it and trying to encounter it as it is.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Trying to hear Christ speaking to you in that moment. There's a lot of fuel for contemplation there. Just it's an amazing passage, really.
Yeah, the Beatitude, I really could sit with it for like days and just really contemplate the Beatitudes, because they're it's kind of like the litany of humility. It's kind of hard to like, in a way, if you're, how do I want to say this? Like, I feel like my life right now is pretty good.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think when I look at it, I'm like, my life's pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm feeling pretty good. Not myself, but like my situations.
Sure.
Right? And then I'm like, but God is saying in this moment that like, blessed is the poor in spirit. Like, blessed is the, I wish I had the Beatitudes in front of me, but it's all this stuff about the people that suffer. And I'm just like, well, if I'm not suffering, what does that mean to me? And I think there's this part, it's like, literally, it's like, woe to the people.
Yes,
and I'm like, is he, like, am I in woe, right? Should I be woeful? You know what I mean? Should I be worried about, like, where I'm at in life? Like, do I need to, So it's very interesting.
No, for sure. It's a fascinating topic, the Psalm, the Beatitudes, the Psalms. The Beatitudes, I don't know, I love them because, in a way, they should be normal for us to live as a Christian. Even though to be poor, normally it's not what we search for, but to be poor in spirit, it's only then that you get into the kingdom.
I know. So it's like this whole, it's like, how do you, Bishop Barron always says this. He's like, when you look at the cross, you realize that you're not okay. Like, I'm not okay and you're not okay. Like, that there's something that needs, like, we're obviously not okay that someone had to go through this for us to save us. And like, I feel like I struggle with being like, no, I'm fine. Well,
for sure.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's some spiritual growth that needs to happen there, but it's really hard. And I think this last time when I was reading the Beatitudes, that really came up to me again when he says that. You know, like, you look at the cross and you realize I'm not okay and you're not okay. And there's something not okay about this world.
Sure.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see, how did Jesus live these Beatitudes on the cross? Because if they're supposed to be the life for the Christian, obviously Christ lived them first. So I don't know, that'd be a great lectio to go through the gospel and see, Christ is living this Beatitude at this moment. Yeah. All the way up to the cross. That'd be fascinating.
So, I guess in our suffering, like, how have you been taught to deal with suffering? Like, has Father Dom or the brothers talked about that? Because I think part of me is like, when I start to experience suffering, I want to fix it.
Right.
Like, I think that's pretty human. Sure, it's just to be like, I want to fix this. I don't want to deal with this. So, like, how are you instructed to, or how have you grown through that?
So I'm terrible at suffering too.
Yeah. Have you been instructed on suffering at all? I guess as a religious or
it's
really?
I guess suffering will come, whatever the situation, but again, we're never being told to search for suffering. We don't do penance. We don't do like major penances. Right. So definitely the instruction is, do we love enough? Yeah. So we don't really look at the suffering as such, but it's when am I most fully alive, even as a human person, is when I love someone, when I love my friend. And then as a Christian, when do I love the most? When do I love Christ the most? And when can I show my love for him the most? Probably in offering up my sufferings. Yeah. In whichever way that might be. But yeah, to always love more. And in a way, a suffering is that I don't love enough. I know that. And I'm not responding enough to Christ. He gives me the Eucharist. how do I respond to that? Never enough. It's a suffering for my heart, actually.
Yeah.
So, how to work through suffering is really, where's my heart at? Because I don't love enough.
Yeah.
That's why I'm maybe bogged down, or I'm in a bad mood, or hasn't been a good day. It's just, actually, my heart wasn't in the right place. It wasn't on the essential, which is Christ. And
right.
my suffering will never be as great as the suffering of Christ. So what have I got to worry about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of me in the suffering, I think part of me knows that. Meaning, like, I know the reason I'm upset is because I'm longing for something.
Sure.
That's not Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm longing for something and I'm upset because I don't have that thing.
Sure.
When really it is my longing is really for Christ.
Right.
And I'm not spending enough time.
Uh-huh.
I think I know that, but doesn't make it any more pleasant.
No, for sure. And then you get to Christ, and then Christ be like, I'm going to be quiet for a little moment.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on now. I've turned to you now.
Yeah.
Like, you just stay calm for a moment. I'm here, but I won't say anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you meet Father Dom at the school, or it's not the School of Life.
It's the School of Life, yeah.
The School of Life?
Yeah.
The university.
The Catholic Discipleship College, yeah.
Yeah, the Catholic, okay.
Yeah.
So when you meet him there, then you leave to go to the diocese. I spent
a year out working. I tried to study. I did a semester of studies. That didn't work. And then it was from there that I was trying to discern, and then went to that following year I went to the dioceses, and all through this time, towards the end of that year, I was already like hearing that some of the other New Zealanders are going to Verbum Spei. I'm like, what's this? What's this place? So, Father Jonathan was already had already left for Verbum Spei when I joined the seminary. I was like, okay, there's options.
So is this in like 2020?
It was 2020, yeah.
Okay, 2020.
More or less. That sounds right.
Yeah.
2020, 2021.
I think he was there because I think he had got there the year that Aaron and I started going to metaphysics.
So he got here to America, but he joined in Mexico in 2019.
Oh, okay.
And again, with this, Verbum Spei, but where do I go for that? Mexico? I'm just from a small island in the corner of the world. So that was a bit of not a put off, but it's like, that's quite a strong decision to join this community.
Yeah.
So after the diocesan seminary, I said, okay, let's try this Verbum Spei thing. So I actually lived also in Mexico for a year.
Okay.
So I joined in. Oh dear.
Had you traveled had you traveled much before this?
A little bit.
Like with your family or anything?
Not with my family, but me and my sister did a small trip. So we actually, after my year at the Discipleship College, we got invited out by Father Dom to go to Calcutta. And we got to see the tomb of Mother Teresa and do a little bit of volunteer work. How
was that?
It was great. I loved it.
Was it intense though?
It was intense in a certain. It was intense, yes.
Okay.
But I love the intensity of it in terms of the mother house of Mother Teresa there with all the sisters of missionary charity, and this is the chapel, and then on the second floor. And the wall, and then a busy street. And then you're just having these cars going by and honking and people chatting outside, and you're trying to have mass in the morning. And I actually went from there to I forgot what it's called now. It's been a while, but to the Missionary Brothers, and so that was a 45-minute to half an hour bus ride through Calcutta. and you see all the sights, the smells, and then you get to this little oasis, and you're there with these men who have been abandoned, who've got disabilities mentally, physically, and for a lot of that time there, it's pretty much go hang out with them. You can't speak to them; they don't know English. You don't know their language, and so you're there. You're trying to love them. You give them like it was like a lotion because their skin's all cracked, and then after a certain time, we help them out with lunch, and then so it was. In that sense, it was intense that you have to be super present to someone who's not at all interested in you. And and
you can't speak to them.
And you can't speak. So definitely, looking back now, it's really about the gestures that you offer this person, the gaze that you have with this person.
It reminds me so much of, like, I think often I was feeling a struggle between like loving God, right? He's this person that I know exists, and I know he's there,
right?
And yet I can't speak to him like I'm speaking to you,
sure,
right? Like he's not gonna. Well, and there's some occasions, but that saints have had, but but most of the time it's just like I can't carry a conversation with him in that way. I can't like reach out and touch like that. He's like physically present in front of me as a human.
Sure.
He's not a human person that you can interact with like another human person of our time, right?
Sure.
I know there's like lots of things that you could say, right? And I think that's why I've really flocked to adoration, because it's the most physical, like tangible thing to experiencing him. But when you're talking, it's kind of the same way. It's like you have this language barrier, right? And then you're also just making, you're trying your best to have a relationship with someone, but there's a barrier, so you can't fully reach them.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just thinking as you were talking, it was like, oh, sometimes I felt like that with Christ. Not in a bad, I don't know. I don't want it to sound bad, but in a way, sometimes I feel like I'm working through this journey of trying to meet the person of Christ. And sometimes I guess it could feel like what you're describing. Sure. And in a way, just doing those things, you're feeling like you're loving the person, right?
Sure.
Like you grow to learn to like, these are things to show love.
Yeah. Maybe again, like for sure your heart is there for Christ, but maybe it's the old head that's turning around and trying to measure. You're like, okay, it doesn't seem right, but of course it makes sense for your heart, and you keep going to adoration. Yeah. But it's the old
head to heart transfer.
Yeah, there you go.
My eternal problem. So you went and spent time with the brothers. Did you spend like the days with them, or were you going back to the sisters? Or what does it look like?
Yeah, it was mass in the morning at 7 with the sisters, and then we went out for the trip, and then I spent all morning, a big morning, and then I head back at around about 2 o'clock, and then I meet up with my sister and a few others. Again, just because of the travel times, and got to explore a little bit, and it was. You see the other missionaries that are there from all over the world, and a lot of them aren't Catholic. I remember one trip we went out to a lepper colony that Mother Teresa founded. It was about a train ride out, taking a train in India. It was a dream come true. So to see what leprosy is, like you hear it in the Bible, but then to see these people that have, because after leprosy, you're like, it can't grow back. Like your limb is always going to be like that. Yeah. So she made this colony, and then they were able to make the saris for the sisters. Oh, so I got to see how they did that, and I was like, wow, these people are living normal lives, even though they have got leprosy. They have, I know, a limb that's not quite what we would call normal. So,
Did you feel like your heart was starting to feel like more alive through this trip? Like, did you feel really alive spiritually?
After the year I've had, it was normal. I was alive. It was an amazing year to do the School of Life and then go through to Calcutta to visit a saint. I was living on a high and I thought it was normal. I was like, this is going to continue. Like, this is life. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I just say a little yes to Christ and then it turns out like this. And then after the year ended, also we had a side trip through the Philippines, see where Mum grew up and things.
Yeah.
So we got back and then, normal life. I'm like, okay, I better maybe study. And then I sort of had a taste for the rat race, the normal, you study, come back home, repeat. And after the year I've had, I was like, this can't be life. This can't be, this can't be it. This can't be what normal people do. Like, normal people again, sorry. After a year like that. So, again, that's why I said I tried to study. It lasted 6 months and then I had the travel bug, so I got to heal that. So I actually visited Mexico. I saw the habit taking of Brother Jonathan.
Really?
Yeah.
Had you known him before?
Yeah, so he was in the School of Life year just before me.
Oh, okay.
So I got to know him. And then he said he was going off to Mexico. And then I've got another, half a year to kill. What am I going to do? So I went and did some more missionary things in Mexico, which was fun. 2 months a year. A little bit more travel. And then I came back and did a year at the diocesan seminary. And then, okay.
How was your time in Mexico then, before you went to the diocesan? Did you feel like you were like, did you feel called when you were in Mexico? And then when you went back, was there like a little like, I really enjoyed it over there. Was there any of that going on?
For sure. Actually, I told my spiritual director, or the vocations director for Christchurch, I'm like, what do you think? I'll go to Mexico. I've got some time to kill. And with this group of brothers. And he said, absolutely not. You were discerning for the diocesans. I'm like, and then I was like, oh, and then I came back to him and was like, oh no. So my mate is taking the habit. I'm going to do some missionary work. I'm going to see Our Lady Guadalupe. And then he thought about it. He's like, okay. But really, he should have stayed.
He knew.
He should have stayed firm with his decision because anyway, only God knows the ifs and the, what if. But I went there and was an eye-opener again. And oh dear. If he watches this, he'll have a good laugh as well. He knows he knows the conversation.
We can give it to you. You can send it to him when it goes live.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so then how long after, you might have already answered this, but how long after leaving the diocesan did it take you to rejoin with the brothers in Mexico?
So after, was that year? There was a trip to Panama already planned for the World Youth Day by some of the seminarians. So I was actually with my younger brother and a few seminarians. So again, I was like, we got this travel bug, gotta get it sorted. So I was, back at home for the summer, and Mum and Dad were like, okay, you left seminary, what are you gonna do? And I sort of just shrugged it off for a bit. And then after a while, I remember we were out to dinner somewhere, and Mum and Dad were like, okay, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do? You go to Panama and you come back, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't think I'm coming back.
Oh, because you were going to go from...
So I was going to go from Panama...
to the brothers.
Straight to Mexico. And definitely Mum's eyes were watering. Dad had that cheeky grin on his face. He's just like, oh yeah. As in just he's, just a little nod of, happy. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
And, had fun in Panama. Saw the Pope. Well, I didn't really see the Pope, but, he drove past in his Pope-mobile. And
a Pope-mobile?
The Pope-mobile.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, the Pope-mobile.
It's a Pope-mobile.
And, I was with my brother. I said goodbye to my brother at the airport. I'm like, see ya.
How far is Panama from the brothers? Are they in Mexico City?
No, they were north of Mexico, in Saltillo, which is a 3-hour drive south of Laredo, Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so...
I didn't know it was that close.
Yeah, well, close for an American.
For an Idahoan, 3 hours from
not a lot.
Texas is not very far.
There you go. So yeah, up north, had a year there, and
what was your experience like in Mexico?
Again, the experience is for the old head. It doesn't make sense. I'd leave home. I'd leave such an awesome family.
Yeah.
Not understand anything for the longest time because I'm trying to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
And still have this deep inner peace that this is where God wants me to be.
Yeah.
Again, for the old head, like it doesn't really work. But again, that's where the Lord was calling me, and there was peace in my heart, so I was able to follow through. Again,
was learning Spanish hard?
Very hard.
Really?
I had one of the oblates of the brothers down there. She broke her hand actually, so she was super happy to have classes with me 1-on-1. So I think it was 3 hours of Spanish 1-on-1, 6 days a week for like 3 weeks. And then after that, they were like, okay, actually, can you go live with the family now? Just to polish it off. So it was quite far from the brothers actually, from where they were living. So it wasn't like I could escape. Like I was literally trapped in with this family. There was no public transport there either. Just to give you a picture of where they were living, it was poorer. So it was actually a dirt road, like all throughout the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it was, such a great experience to live with them and see their family culture, and to wake up each day and have to speak in Spanish. And to see their mission as well, because the brothers really asked them to live in this colonia, in this neighborhood, because it was a lot poorer, and there was, some issues of morality and issues of actually being Catholic, being Christian there. So they this family agreed to live in this neighborhood and they just live and be a witness being a Catholic family in this area. So Chela, the mother, she does quite a bit she's not a doctor, but she did a lot of medical help assistance. I think she's a nurse for a lot of the poorer people in need. So
were you doing a lot of mission work then with them?
Not so much. Again, they live there. They have, I can't really remember now, but they really looked after the church there, the little chapel. Again, it was I was there mostly to learn Spanish, but of course, after a certain time, they're not at home all day. So the father just kicked me out. He said, hey, go door knocking, go out, speak Spanish. I don't care how you learn, just get out of this place. And I was like, okay. So, and it was interesting that I don't know these people. I knock on their doors, and then all of a sudden they're inviting me in, and then all of a sudden they're inviting me to come another time.
Yeah.
And such a great culture. I mean,
did you ever create any lasting friendships? Are there any families that you talk to, or if you
not
were
so
going?
much? No, unfortunately, I didn't. I don't think my Spanish was that great to really, really bond with these people. But I haven't been back to Mexico since. But if I ever go back, I'd love to say hello to Chela and Chubby again. And their boys that have grown up now.
So how long did you spend with them again?
It was at least 2 weeks with this family.
And then you went back to the brothers.
Normally, I knew Spanish. Well, knew enough Spanish to live in the community with the brothers. So it's an interesting way to start religious life.
Yeah, to learn a language.
I arrive in Mexico. I want to give my life to Christ. And they say, hey, just go learn Spanish first. So, okay. But luckily they supported me with that, and I was able to learn enough Spanish to be able to live the community life. It was great.
Talk about Lent.
So Lent was to learn Spanish. So of course we have to give up things for Lent. Normally something that is really dear to you. Or so for me, Lent was giving up English.
Oh my gosh. I still can't get my mind around that. It's so crazy.
I can't either, really. I grew up thinking I'd never learn another language. Here I am, learning Spanish.
So what did your life look like when you were in Mexico with the brothers?
So I was a novice. I entered the novitiate there. Again, as a novice, you're slightly more apart from the apostolic work because it's discovering a new life.
Wait, hold on. So what does that look like then as a novice? So when you say you're separated a little bit, what does that practically what does your day look like?
So we'd have the prayer in common, morning adoration and the offices, in the sense that like the brothers would go out on missions or have little times of preaching, visit families and all this. The novice, he holds the fort.
Okay.
He's there. Again, I remember one time there was like this, they were having this musical festival. They were inviting people, there was guest instruments and all this. And unfortunately, the novices of the previous year, they were allowed to go, but they somehow found their way on stage or something like that. And the novice master was like, I don't think novices are going to come again.
Oh no.
Again, it's about, trying to discover this new life, trying to be a bit more hidden, to be reserved for Christ, really set your heart on this one good, this one absolute. And after that, yes, of course, you can go off on mission, you can be more apostolic in that sense. But again, is the foundation there? And being a novice is finding that foundation, which is Christ.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, at least in the day and age that we live in, because, I mean, think about, okay, we'll say like even 100 years ago, we didn't have the type of technology that we have today that, I mean, you could even say it sooner, but I mean, think about like radio or, it used to be just radio and not like television. And now we have radio and television and social media and phones and computers and all of these things that can steal our attention. So I think that would be really important to have that ear, right? I
mean, it might sound horrible. Novitiate, you're cut off from the world, but it is a privileged time. It's a real privilege to be able to, again, not to have a phone, not to have these contacts, and just to be in one place, present to Christ. And of course, being in Mexico, I had no place to run to.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
So, it was great. So again, I entered novitiate there. I took the habit there.
Yeah. So when you enter the novitiate, you get like this is going to sound really bad, but it's a jacket kind of thing.
Like a big hoodie.
Yeah.
It's a cool hoodie.
Yeah.
It's the color. It's, the color of the brothers. It's called a malot. Mm-hmm. Again, just, it's a start. You haven't got the full habit yet, but it's like, okay, you enter into the life of a brother. You are now brother so-and-so.
Practically.
In such a awesome day, when you receive the habit, it was the last time I wore a tie.
Yeah. How did that feel?
I mean, they took it off you. Again, the taking of the habit, it's not you take the habit and put it on. The brothers put the habit on you. Yeah. And
it was really, I watched Brother Mary David.
Oh, yes.
Take the habit.
Yeah. It's such a joyful day for everyone, really.
Yeah.
Because we take our new name at that stage as well.
Yep.
For the religious life. So it's really the new identity in Christ and with this new family, which is your community. And again, I love the habit.
Yeah.
Is
it nice to have like just one thing?
Absolutely.
You don't have to like worry about, I always think that would be so nice.
It is.
Maybe not the girl thing to say, but I think it'd be so nice to just be like, yeah, this is just what I wear. I don't have to think about it in the morning.
In the morning, it's the same haircut. It's the same sandals, the habit. The place where I love the most to wear the habit is weddings.
Yeah?
Because, okay, maybe I iron it a little better. I take the dog's paws off my habit. You see everybody else sort of kitted up, whatever. The guys wearing suits and the girls in their, their dress and makeup. And you rock up and you didn't even think about it and you wear the same thing.
That's so freeing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it is great. Again, I go to a wedding. I wear my habit.
Yeah. I
go see the Pope. I've got the same habit on. I go see the poor guy down the street, or I do my whatever little mission, or I go to Corpus Christi house here. I'm in my habit.
That's actually really cool because in a way it's so versatile. It's as fancy and as simple as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never thought about it like that, but that's so true. It's almost, again, it's another thing of freeing. Like, I don't have to worry about, like, I'm presenting myself in a way.
Sure, yeah.
That is respectful in almost every occasion.
Absolutely,
Do you know what I mean? Because we talk about, like, dressing up for Jesus at Mass and, like, looking nice and making yourself presentable, or, even like you were saying, to see the Pope, you'd be like, oh, I need to look tip top or whatever, or in service, whatever.
Or in the Mass.
Right. But then you have this thing and it's perfect for every occasion.
I'm always in my Sunday best.
You are always in your Sunday best.
Yeah, so it's, the habit is great. Yeah.
Is there any instances that you guys don't wear the habit after you take your
swimming?
Yeah. Okay.
And and sports, just practically you just tear it up.
Yeah.
Again, we did go up Mount Bora just 2 days ago. We were all in habits, the brothers, so
oh my goodness.
It's a little sketchy when you don't know where your foot is and it's getting caught by your habit. But you get to the top and it's
there you go, you made it.
Yeah.
Did you? But at the same time, isn't your habit like this symbol that helps evangelize? Because does it start conversations?
Absolutely.
Where people on Mount Bora be like, why'd you wear that?
Yeah. Yeah, we had one time this was in France, people, we were going out for, it was just a regular sort of stroll in the mountains, not even hike. And they're like, wow, that's a bit stoic. And I'm like, what? We just...
just what we have.
It's just, we wear this, just put some shoes on and go.
But is it cool to have that moment though? Or do you ever feel invited to like speak to it more? Like speak about your...
Yeah, I always wonder. Again, I just took the habit. I was 21 and, for the first time I'm wondering how this works, and I got to go home because I got to see my family. They weren't able to come to my habit taking, so they allowed me to see my family. And I had to fly from Mexico through Los Angeles back to New Zealand. And and it was a return trip, so in Los Angeles, I was talking to some people, somehow they were looking, or I don't know, and then all of a sudden, they just poured their heart out to me.
You're like, whoa.
And I was like, I'm new to this, I'm sorry. But they just shared some things. I'm thinking, was that the habit? Was it just because I was nice? Surely a little bit of everything. They shared a story of their son dying tragically in a car accident. Oh. And they leave home about this time, like at the anniversary each year, just because it was just
so hard.
Yeah, to get out of that sort of mark that situation. And the father wears the son's shoes, and so I will never see these people again. Maybe if they watch the podcast, but it was just the weirdest but profound encounter that I had just after a few weeks after taking the habit. And then another guy had another strange, profound conversation with this other guy. We were talking and we went out, and then he bought me a burger, and then just talked about Christ for the longest time. He was evangelical, but we just went at it. We weren't arguing, but it was just an awesome encounter, which again, I wonder,
is it the habit?
Was it the habit?
Yeah, I don't know.
It must have been something there, because he wouldn't have talked to me if I don't think. It'll be interesting to compare. I can't really, but a collar of a priest.
Oh yeah.
And a religious habit, because they're not the same.
No.
But they say the same thing in a certain way, but there's different contexts. But
yeah. I know that some priests, I've heard that they will not wear their collars on vacation. Like
Sure.
they won't wear it because they're like, I just want to relax. And
Sure.
if someone needs me on the plane, I'll announce myself. But if
Sure.
not, I would like to just sit and read my book.
Sure, there you go.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I respect these priests, and I know it's a very demanding vocation, but I guess,
they're a lot more out, I think, in a way, even though that you guys are doing a lot of evangelization and you're going out and you're in the world.
Sure.
I think priests there's a different demand in a way.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess with the collar, they immediately know it's a priest. When they come to me, they see a habit, they're like, I'm Buddhist, or Namaste. And I'm like, no, it's hey, bro.
Yeah. Right.
So, no, it's...
How was it for your parents to see you come off the plane in your habit? Like, did you watch their faces when they saw you?
I don't remember that encounter, actually. I don't recall.
Really?
I really don't remember.
Cool to see their face.
Yeah, it definitely took a while for them to adapt with the name, which I didn't really...
That would be hard, yeah.
I didn't really, worry about it too much. I know it'd be normal, but...
Yeah.
Again, it was interesting. One time I was in London for some visa issue or whatever. And, I was just in a train station or something. And then after a while, I saw a priest. I'm like, I'll talk to the priest. And he said, thank you for wearing the habit, because actually the people behind him in the line that he was in, they were asking, what's this thing? Like, what's this habit? Like, they didn't say habit. What is this guy wearing? And the priest was able to say, this is a religious habit. He is a religious.
Whoa.
So again, things that will pass over my head, and thanks be to God, they do pass over my head in a way, but people do remark and they do comment to themselves, and yeah.
I know it is a statement. It is a statement in itself.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think it's really beautiful. I like when brothers and sisters wear their habits.
For sure. Also, I do encourage Catholics to go up and greet these religious inhabits.
Yeah.
If it's in the airport, if it's in I don't know where, when they're traveling, because a lot of the time a religious will only get stares. They're just like...
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So after a while, it can get a little burdensome. You're like, okay, people are looking.
Yeah.
The rule is don't stare normally.
Yeah.
If you stare, I probably wave at you. Or if you stare, say hi, because it's just weird if you just look.
Yeah.
So again, it can be a bit weird and a little bit like tiring. So I do encourage Catholics to really say hi to the religious. So
yeah. Luckily, especially because you're in Boise, you probably don't get that as much, right? Because many, do you run into many people that know you? Because I feel like anyone that knows you guys is like, hey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, all over, really. Yeah, for sure. And in the other houses of the brothers, we run into people on the street and things. So again, maybe they wouldn't see us if we didn't wear the habit. So
yeah. I think like you said, I think people just kind of blend in with everybody else.
Sure.
Which I think in its way is, I guess there's a nice part of that too, I suppose, but.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So you spent time in Mexico and then you, head to Luxembourg.
So a year in Luxembourg, and then we went to.
And you learned French in Luxembourg.
Yeah, I learned French. I stayed with a French family, one of the brothers. I stayed with his family. This was during COVID. Sort of snuck out, tried to avoid the police, and went out to this family. It's a bigger family. He's one of 9, so there was at least 4 of them in the house.
Wow.
And again, it's the challenge when you're learning a language. Just open your mouth. You will say the wrong thing. And of course, now that I've kind of learned Spanish, they would say, every time I'd try to speak in French, Spanish would come out.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
And we said it earlier that there's so many hidden language, or like hidden letters and like weird pronunciations of random sounds. Sure. And
again, because sometimes it's similar, actually that doesn't help when it's similar.
Yeah. Is it because you try to say it how you would say it in Spanish?
In Spanish, like que in Spanish is que. And so I'd mix it up, like it's spelled the same, but it's okay. Just, you need to get your French on.
Your French. Did you have to read a lot of French when you were in Luxembourg? Because I know that you guys, you study a lot of French. A lot of the documents are in French.
Yeah, so we studied a lot in French. The books and the common life was in French.
Oh, okay.
So we sang the Psalms in French. So
I didn't even think about that. But when you were in Mexico, they were probably saying all of the prayers and everything.
Everything. All the Psalms.
Everything.
And then I went to France.
I mean, that makes sense. But at the same time, that's intense.
For sure. So I got to the US and I opened the Psalter. I'm like, that's what it's saying. Because I thought I understood, okay, the Spanish and then the French. And then, oh dear, I actually never understood the Psalm.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's not ideal to join religious life in this sort of way. It's always ideal to enter in with your mother tongue, but hey,
it worked.
It's the roller coaster that the Lord sent me on, so here we are.
And so then you came to the US after?
Then I spent after I came to the US, I made my final vows in Europe.
Okay. Did your family come and visit?
No, unfortunately, again, it just didn't work out.
It's a long trip.
It's a long trip.
So, yeah.
So that was actually in French, I think. Yeah, so I took the habit in Spanish, first vows in French, final vows in English.
Wow.
So again, it's just if God has sent put out that itinerary of what is going to happen in religious life,
no,
I would be like,
Are you sure? A little ordering problem here.
But. There you go. So, no, it's crazy. So,
okay, so I have a question for you. If anyone is listening and they are maybe have an inkling that they should be in religious life and they have not met Father Dom, what kind of advice or what kind of things would you maybe encourage them to do?
For sure. So definitely, we're all Catholic, Sunday Mass, but try and find another Mass during the week. Daily Mass, that'll be awesome, but Mass during the week it's great because it really structures your day. You put Mass there and everything else sort of works around it. So I don't know, even if it's once or twice during the week, it's a shorter Mass, but again, it's more, let's say, prayerful because there's less people, less noise, less music. Mm-hmm. So you get to enjoy, in a sense, the Mass. If it's religious life, I'm no, spiritual director but my hunch at this stage is Our Lady is going to be close by if you're ever called to religious life. Yeah. So take out your rosary beads and start praying the rosary. Again, it's hard to say the rosary. It's 5 mysteries and then it's repetitive and all this. But hey, take a decade in the morning, take a decade in the evening, and work around just every now and again. Take a decade and actually you'll pray more than 5 decades at the end of the day. Yeah. So stay close to Our Lady because for me, she's been present this whole time through and I don't think I'd be here without her. So
it's beautiful.
So at least 2 big ways to help nourish this vocation that could be there.
If they don't have a religious group near them, is there any online resources, or do you think it's just go and visit? Just find a place and go and visit?
I think it's come and see, really.
Yeah.
Again, it's the encounters that you make, get to know your parish priest, and visit the communities, really. It changes everything because we have the idea of a Verbum Spei brother or of a Dominican or of a Franciscan, whatever, but or you might see them outside of their monastery, but in a sense we are fish out of water. To really get the feel of this brother, go to where where he lives.
Yeah.
And then you see how he lives, and it changes everything. It changes your perception, and
this might be a question more for your parents, but is there anything that parents can do to open up religious life to their children? Is it again come and see? Just
it would be a come and see. I don't know how you would do it, but for my parents, they never mentioned priesthood or religious life to me. They just lived their faith as best they could.
Wow.
And prayer and mass, and of course mass, not just Sundays. Yeah. That was how I grew up, and they knew religious, and we'd have visits of priests and religious. So definitely, I don't know how to do it, parents, but invite the parish priest to dinner.
Yeah.
You look after your parish priest. I'm with the community. Parish priest is, he's very often alone.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure that they enjoy being invited out to parents, to families. So,
yeah.
Again, to get to know the priest and religious in more informal settings, going out for a coffee, or it's you see how human they are, but how holy they are at the same time.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, and then if anyone wants to decide to come and see you, they can find you at the monastery.
Yes.
Right? So that would be Our Lady of Ephesus in Boise.
4450 North 5 Mile Drive.
Yeah.
You can find us online.
Yep. They have a newsletter. Yeah. I can probably link that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. And then are you going to be in Boise too much longer, or are you going back to Luxembourg? I've heard a little bird has been talking.
So I've spent this last study year in Luxembourg at the seminary. So I'm counting down the days, unfortunately, and then I have to go back and finish some studies for the seminary. And
then you'll be, how many years left of seminary do you have?
I'm looking between 1.5 to 2 years. So.
Okay. Will you be back for the summers?
Normally.
Okay. Praise be God.
So pray for me, pray for the seminarians, pray for brothers and religious. We count on your prayers too.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Desert Wanderers. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up as well as subscribe down below. We're produced by Salt and Light Radio, so you can find us on social platforms at Salt and Light Radio or Desert Wanderers Podcast. We produce episodes every week and we launch them for you on Wednesdays. So make sure to tune in for next week's episode and we'll see you then.